So now we're going into the configuration of the PLC, the sensors, and any other device that you want connected to the internet. Right now we have standalone sensors, and we click on that, we get some pre-defined sensors that I've set up here. We have 4 analog sensors where we have named one temperature, and that's, if we click here, you can see the specifications for the sensor. You have temperature, you have specified that it's an analog sensor, and here you give it a name and specify which category of sensors this is. So this is a temperature sensor. Alright, so we have IO numbers from 0 to 3. These are the 4 analog sensors. Next we have the scan rate or refresh rate, which would be more apt in this case. That specifies how frequently we access the sensor. So this is in milliseconds, as it says, so this is once every second that it's set up for. The multiplier and offset are scaling coefficients of the sensor. So for instance here we use a custom setup to get the temperature out as we specified up in the sensor type. So we are just going to save that. We didn't change anything really. And then the next thing we can do is actually show this sensor. So we go into the designer and add a new widget. Here we can take the gauge, and we can add, again, this is the DIAP, and the PLC. The PLC is again a bit of a misnomer. You would call it the sensor collection groups or something like that. But we select standalone sensors. We have tags, which in this case will be the temperature, and then you can see the offset or multipliers. You can't actually change that here. You do that in the settings. And then you set a minimum threshold and a maximum threshold for this gauge. It's only a visual thing. So if we set this to 20 degrees and set a maximum to let's say 35, then we should see it's reaching somewhere in between there. In a similar way, you can set it up with a graph instead. That is a line chart. And again, if you choose the line chart, you get clear straight lines between each point. If you choose spline chart, it will create a sort of soft line between each point of measurement. And the area charts are similar, but it fills out the area below. And then finally you have column charts, which should be self-explanatory. So let's take just a simple line chart for now and set in a retention period, and that's how long of a duration you have visible in on the axis. So this is 1 minute, so I will see from now and 1 minute back. I'll quickly select the temperature sensor again. It's exactly the same as with the gauge. Here you have the option to manually fix the y-axis. If you know, for instance, as in this case, that this sensor is going to have a range between 20 and 35, and you have an easier at-a-glance view of these settings. So with that done, we'll click Save Changes. And as you can see here, now we have actually a visual representation of the data over 1 minute. You can change these settings at any time by going back into the settings and changing them. You can also try, for argument's sake, to take an area chart instead. You'll see that it will have a filled out curve below. It has some advantages. Okay, so that was it. Next we'll look at PLCs.